Have you asked yourself this question? What will happen if there is no valves in the heart?
We have the cardiac cycle. But before we dive into the cardiac cycle, let's explain the structure of the heart. So in the heart, we have the atrium, the atria, and the atria is divided into two, the left atrium and the right atrium. And we also have the ventricles, and the ventricles is divided into two, the left ventricles and the right ventricles. So this atrium the atrium and the ventricle are separated by a valve. They are separated by valves, and these valves are known as the atrioventricular valves. So the valves that separates the atrium from the ventricle is known as the atrioventricular valves. So here's a question. So which valve separates the left atrium from the left ventricle? Is called the bicuspid valves. They have two cups, or the mitral valves, or the left atrioventricular valve. Why the valve that separates the right atrium from the left atrium is called the tricuspid valves, or the right atrioventricular valves. Now, let's start with the way by which blood flows. So first, we have the left and the right side of the heart. So the left side is made of the right atrium and the left and the right ventricle, while the left side is made up of the left atrium and the left ventricle, and they are separated by valves. So let's start with the right side hand of the valve. Let's start with the right side of the heart. So in the right side of the heart, what happens? Deoxygenated blood enters into the right atrium. The oxygenated blood enters into the right atrium via the superior and the inferior vena cava. So what is the superior vena cava doing? The superior vena cavas returns blood from the upper limbs, the neck, and the head back to the right atrium, while the inferior vena cava return blood from the lower parts of the body back to the right atrium. And what's the second thing that happens? The right atrium contracts, pushing blood through the tricuspid valve. So look at the tricuspid valves there. So what is happening? The right atrium contracts, and when the right atrium contracts, they start pushing these tricuspid valves. And when they start pushing these tricuspid valves, what's happened? The tricuspid valves, or the right atrioventricular valves, open up. As soon as they open up, the blood from the right atrium moves into the right ventricle through the tricuspid valve or the atrioventricular valves. So what happened? What is the third thing that happened? Blood enters to the right ventricle. And when blood enters to the right ventricle, what's the first thing that happens? The right ventricle contracts. The right ventricle contracts. And as soon as the right ventricle contracts, blood are expelled through the pulmonary valve. Now take a look at that pulmonary valves. So the pulmonary valve is the valve between the pulmonary artery and the right ventricle. So they serve as gateway which prevent the flow back of blood. So as soon as the right ventricle contracts, it increases the pressure and open up the pulmonary valve, and blood now flow from the right ventricle to the pulmonary artery, to the where? To the lungs. So from the pulmonary artery, this blood is now taken to the lungs. Remember, these are deoxygenated blood. As they're taken to the lungs, they become what? Oxygenated. So oxygenated blood returns from the lungs via the pulmonary veins into the left atrium. Blood veins are blood vessels that returns blood to the heart, and arteries are blood vessels that take away blood from the heart. And in arteries, they carry oxygenated blood, while in veins they carry deoxygenated blood. But in the case of pulmonary veins and pulmonary artery, the pulmonary artery carries the venous blood, and the venous blood is also called the deoxygenated blood. The pulmonary artery carries deoxygenated blood back to the left atrium. So from the left atrium now constructs. And as soon as the left atrium constructs, what happens? They start pushing blood to the left ventricle. And this blood can only pass through the left ventricle through the mitral valve, also known as the bicuspid valves or the left atrioventricular valves. So blood enters into the left atrium through the pulmonary veins, now through the left ventricles, through the mitral valves or the bicuspid valves or the left atrioventricular valves. Now from there, what next happen? Blood enters into the what? The left ventricles. So the eighth thing that happens is the powerful left ventricle. So the left ventricle is thicker. Ventricles are thicker and has more pressures than the right atrium. And the left ventricle is more thicker than the right ventricles. Why? The left ventricles pumps blood throughout the body, while the right ventricle pumps blood only to the lungs. So the powerful left ventricle contracts, ejecting blood through the aortic valves. So the aortic valve is the valve between the aorta and the left ventricle. So what are they doing? They allow this blood to pass through the aorta now through the entire body.